Okay, so today uh, class will be 8. So now copy the previous class, then paste. If I share my source code, can you check that source code in your system? Hello, hello, Tag, are you there?
Yes, yes, I can check.
Hmm. Uh,
But
so, hmm.
do you want me to check now immediately?
No. Uh, Actually, I wanted to see basically if we creating any Node.js based application. So
Hmm.
basically, uh, we actually stored our application without Node module folder. Without Node module folder. So basically, if we do not have a Node module folder, so we cannot uh, uh, run our project directly
Hmm.
without node modules.
Okay.
Because if I try to start like this without node modules folder, so then we can see this kind of issues in our system. Okay, so basically
Yeah.
thing is, if we get this kind of issues, that means it is actually general problem, because we did not have any dependencies at this moment. And
Yeah.
if we have no dependencies here, so first we need to install all dependencies first uh, for development purposes. And once these dependencies are installed, then we can start our project.
Okay.
This is the actual process of every node.js based applications when we are worked on.
Okay.
Okay, so basically this is the part, because sometimes we after development we store our source code in the GitHub repositories, and when we pull that projects in our system, so sometimes uh, you may not get this node modules folder in your projects file. So after pulling the source code, you need to be installed first the all packages with this syntax npm I or npm install, and then you can start your project with the
Okay.
npm start or ng start. So
Okay.
this is the way of our project starting for the node.js environment. This is the
Yeah.
process, basic process. And once I run this project, and this time we can see uh, it is our main thing. Okay, so basically uh, from the last class we actually first we need to understand some basics. First things we need to know about components. Actually signal here given here first, but signals actually new features for angular framework. But basically first we need to understand about components. What is
Okay.
components actually? What is component? Can you say what is component?
Uh, Component is a small or individual part of the application which can be reused. It's similar to class.
Yes. Component is a visual part of our application. In our Angular part, component is the visual part. Okay. Basically,
Okay.
if we see the output, so that is actually part of component. And when it is visual part, so once we see any visual part by the component, so in component have mainly three files, mainly one file actually. First file is a ts file, and in the ts file we have a decorator function which is called component. This is the actually function. Okay, it is actually function. and
Okay.
it returns type decorator object. It is return type decorator object, and
Okay.
we actually use some object which is the type of component. Okay, and this object have some extra inputs, like in this curly brace actually defining the object. Actually, if I use as const obj, and after that we can write it, and after that we can pass it as object same. Okay, this is the javascript object, and this javascript object can be passed by like this. But if I write this process, so this time it separated with two lines of code, so it's better if we are not using it like that, we can use it directly in inline code like this. Okay, would you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so basically in Angular component, what kind of inputs parameters are here? Actually, what kind of object parameters here? So if I space control space press in our uh, keyboard, and after that we can see so many things actually here, like change detection, encapsulation, export as, host, host directives. So many in types of uh, input properties are here. Okay, but some input properties are required, like if we are using, so this selector is important to use.
Okay.
It is most important part, because without this we cannot use as a component. So it is the most important part into the component, and after that we can use template URL or template, and style URL or style. These three things actually mostly important, and after that
Okay.
we can use import as a module importer. Basically, Angular component are needs some third party dependency or third party modules, and when it is required, so that time we need to use this import syntax inside the component decorator, component object. Basically,
Okay.
this import options does not have before uh, 2000, before Angular version 16, because Angular version 16, from Angular version 16 this import are actually used, and before that their architecture some things different, because that time this import part only worked on module section, module decorator. But this
Okay.
time module decorator not actually that module decorator already have in a Angular architecture, but that is almost depreciated, because uh, this time it's actually comes with component first design. So standalone component is first requirement, and in that component have everything which is required to design, and that component can be handled behind that all dependencies. Okay,
Okay.
could you understand it clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so basically once we return a component, and after that
What
without
is the difference? Sorry. What is the difference between import used in the above and import used within the component?
this import part, why, what is the import or
Yeah,
import?
that is the import. Yeah, that is the import above, right? Yeah.
Oh, this import or this input, what is the difference between this import?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, basically this imports part of JavaScript syntax or TypeScript syntax. This is the part of imports. import. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
what is this actually? This is the when we call some another class, so that class actually javascript treated as a module. Okay, this is the actually another class file location. You,
Okay.
okay, and this file comes from this particular file. Okay, and
Okay.
when this file actually created here, this file actually imported here, this is the actually javascript part. Okay, but
Okay.
what is this? What is this actually? Here I use header and menus, header and menus. Okay, and this header and menus actually use as imports. This imports actually different between this import. Basically thing is, when we are created class here, right, you are create a class here,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
did we create any instance in our application? Do I create any object in our application?
No.
Because if we create any class, then we need to create an instance.
Yes.
It is a manner of object oriented programming.
Yes.
But at this framework, we are not creating any object here
Okay.
directly. So basically we just pass it as reference with the import key, and when we pass all the class references by this section, this component create their object internally in this component.
Okay.
Okay, then it
Okay.
will be calling as a object uh, using this way,
Okay.
and it's called dependency injection.
Okay.
Basically this component dependent on these objects.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the
Okay.
dependency injection.
Okay.
It is clear?
Yes.
Okay, so these particular things actually pass as a reference, and after that we can use that references with the HTML and CSS, and as well as if we are use any kind of JavaScript parts, that can be used in our application. Okay, this is
Okay.
the basic thing. And once we create the component, and after create component, we need to be declare some parameters, sorry, some variables, because that variables link to be HTML part. So how can do that? Okay, so just
Okay.
I create a manually, I create a manually a component first. Okay, so this is my home section, and after this uh, this after this I just use a basic component, like just I right click here without using any command line. Okay, I'm this time I'm not use any command line to create a component. Okay, so just I use here counter dot
Okay.
ts. Counter dot ts is a file name, and this counter dot ts file uh, worked as a component. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so when we write any class or functions whatever in JavaScript or TypeScript, so basically we can create here class directly like this: class counter, countr, counter, like this, and this is the counter class. Okay, and after using this counter class, increment decrement we can write easily here. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the basic counter class which can be used. Okay. But if I want to use this class in our home page, so how can do that?
Imports.
Yes, imports. So basically where we can import it? First we need to be import it. First we need to be import it here. We can read write here a counter counter. Then we can use from, and then we can apply it from component, and then we can use counter like this, right?
Yes.
We can use like this. But problem is, if I use it here, this time you can see here I have some problem. Here we can some problem. What kind of problem? Cannot destructure property pause uh, of the file reference files index as it undefined. What
Okay.
is the meaning of? Meaning is when I use it as import here, this particular class name actually not declare here, but already we declared na.
Yes.
But why it's saying we don't have any file reference? Basically, if I import here in the JavaScript or TypeScript, we must be use before it export. If we are not using any export syntax, we cannot get any import syntax use here. Okay. Once
Okay.
I use it, then we can see this import options are can be worked. But now it's same. It's a same problem. Why?
Hmm.
It's a same problem because this class how it work in our Angular framework, Angular does not know. Basically, we are not using any kind of references. It is a service class, it is a component class, or it is a directive class, whatever it is a class. Angular actually does not know. Basically, this class does not have any kind of Angular type data types, because Angular have required some kind of data types which need to be imports here first. Basically, if I use it and if I use it as counter in this section, we can use. But if I use here, so this said component import must be standalone component, directive pipes must be or must be ng module. These four type of things can be used as a import part. Could you understand the process?
So we define a class and then we import it at the another class level, and then we define it within component.
Within
Right?
within the component import section. But
Yeah.
when I use it import section, so that time the Angular recommends it. If it is component, then we can use. It is directives, then we can use. If it is pipes, that then we can use, or it is ng modules, then we can use. That means these four types can be used as import module, import
Okay.
section. Okay, these four types actually can be used in the import section. Okay.
Okay. So we cannot, unless we are going to define that as a component, we cannot import it.
Yes, actually, if we are using it, then we cannot use it here. But we can use it here another way. How? Just I want to use the counter object like this. Okay. Then here we can use this way, right? And if I use it, these things like this way, then we can use some h1 tag and countr counter, and then we can use the counter object, and then we can create some button 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 uh, @click. I missed, maybe I missed something. Increment incre increment and decrement. Decrement. Okay, this is the basic thought. This is the basic things which can be used here.
Okay.
So basically, if I create it, so by default, how it work? Just I create the code hard codedly, and then counter is incrementing here, and counter is decrementing here. Then our app part can be start using easily through this way. This time these imports are not working. Just I use it directly here.
Okay.
Okay, so
But we can't refer the counter class from the other file.
no,
We need to directly embed it.
actually I'm not using it right now. I'm just using the counter functions, how it work in the
Okay.
home section. Okay, so basically this is the first part which is need to be understood, how our variable and function, how it work. So
Okay.
oh sorry, if we are using the click function, actually this is the Angular click function. I just actually mixed with another framework syntax. So
Okay.
actually it is the click function, click event, which is supported in Angular framework.
Okay.
This can be supported in Angular framework, and after this we can use it like this as function. Okay, so this time it is work, and now we can see the output, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the actually part of our counter part, but this counter part actually I did not want to write here. I actually use it into the this counter part, and this counter part only use it as a single line. Okay, so
Okay.
how can do that? Basically, if I use it
No,
as
no, no. What is this counter part?
this is the counter UI,
Yes.
this is the
Yeah.
counter UI, and this counter component are implementing here in the home
Yes.
section directly.
Mm.
But this home section actually treated as a page, right?
Yes.
And counter part is a features of that page.
Yes.
Okay, so if it is a feature, so if I all features defined in the pages section, then our code will be very longer,
Yes. Yes.
and it's not so much manageable. So basically
Yeah.
we need to be separated it with the another files or another parts.
Okay.
That's why we required a another component.
Okay.
Okay, so basically this time we can use another components here. That's why we can use another components here. So firstly we can use uh, this UI, cut from here and save it, and then we can see the blank counterpart is not here. Okay,
Mm. Okay.
And once it is not here, then we can use it as a component decorator. Okay, so now we can use it here, component decorator, and this
So
component decorator functions
so the
comes from.
component is the basics. If we want to reuse code, then it need to be defined as a component. Correct. We cannot just define a class at some place and use it in another place.
Repeat your question again.
My question is, just defining a class, we cannot reuse or use that class in other places. It need to be defined as a component.
Actually, if we using it a class, if we use it a class, so direct class cannot be injected anywhere in our Angular framework.
Okay.
Okay, we need to be set as any kind of data types which is are supported in Angular framework. Directly
Okay.
any direct written class cannot be supported directly in our Angular framework.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically we need to be some typecasting with any kind of decorators function in Angular.
Okay.
It
Okay.
is actually a problem in Angular framework. So we
Okay.
must be uh, some declarative process. So first thing we can use here app counter, which is the element name. This is not required always use it as app counter. We can use it only counter. But after that, if I use it as counter, then we can need use template, and that template is a UI part which I cut from the home section. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the backtick. This backtick can support multiple lines into the JavaScript.
Okay.
Okay, if I use backtick, so this backtick can support for written multiple lines into the JavaScript or TypeScript.
Okay.
And after that, if we want to use any styling purpose, so that time we can use styles option, and after that we can write styles in line like this. Okay, so this is the
Okay.
actually process to write component. This three part of component it is. Okay,
Okay.
once I written it here, so this is the actually count, and after that we actually need to use count. Okay, so this is the count, and now it's okay. Once our component are created properly, and after this written component, this component need to be import here. So this component decorator already created here, and their features also be defined, and now I import here it import here. Okay, and when I import it, then we need to set it here as counter property, counter object property. Okay,
Okay.
and once I use it, then it says this counter uh, decoration object, counter object, I already declared, but this counter need to be defined in our page first. COUN COUN counter like this. If I use
N. COUN.
COUN, okay, it said we cannot use directly counter small case. We need to use counter as C of the file name, because this is the class file, and if I use it, so case sensitive file we need to be use it is a reference, and also okay, once I written it here, then the problem is solved. Actually, thing is, I actually missed this component imports before. If I use it as small, then I need to must be use it as a small, then it will be also solve the problem. But it's recommend to write it as a capital case, and after that we can use it as a capital case here also. Okay.
Okay.
So after using this, we can see, we cannot see actually the component component selector. This is actually selector syntax. But if I write this selector syntax directly like this, so it's not a element selector. So basically, we need to extra prefix options for the component selector, and if I use it, then we can use this syntax like this. After using this, what is the problem? Before it, if we use, and if it is used as easy, so counter, counter. Okay, it's okay. But once I written it, yeah. Once I written here, but this counter are actually not supported properly. Now I can set it at in this way, then I just check it, it supports it properly or not. What happening here? Okay, actually this is not a problem actually. It's actually cannot understand this is a component. Okay, it is actually
Okay.
our code is correct, our code is correct, everything is correct, but this time our Angular framework does not understand it as a component. So if we need to solve this problem, so just terminate our console first, then we can restart it, and after restart it, I think problem is solved.
Okay.
Okay, basically sometimes it's give some problems because when it is as a component, so sometimes uh, Angular builder miss the changes. Uh, so these changes are missed, and if we get this kind of issues, if our code already satisfied, which is required, then we need to be terminate our development environment, then need to restart it. Then we can uh, see our changes. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the actually is sometimes it is a bug. It is very little bit. It is a bug actually in the Angular framework. Sometimes we are change the data types, and that data types are actually satisfied the process, then it is not supported yet. And if I not use app uh, predefined, then it can also use it like this. Okay, if I use it, then we can see it like this. Okay,
Okay.
but Angular recommends always should use a prefix to mention your UI, because
Okay.
it separates then your normal HTML syntax. Because if you are using normal HTML syntax, and this will be confused about both of uh, elements. And this is
Okay.
actually a native element which is supported in HTML part, and it is a Angular element which is created by Angular. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the difference between the two elements. And when we create calling these elements in our parent file, and child file give us the template section, in the component we can see three parts of the template section. So basically this is the template part, this is the CSS part, and it is the selector part. These three things are mainly required. And when we have the data interpolation sign, and this data interpolation sign comes from this data, and activity part, which is the function part, and this functions part are linked with like this way. Understand?
Okay. Understood.
This is the component structure. Okay, and this component structure actually created by only single file.
Okay.
But this same concept are created by command line format, then they are created like this way, with the file name, HTML file name, with the CSS file name and selector name, and there we can see others files help of the help for the UIs. Okay,
Okay.
and if we set any like if we want to set the color, like if I want to set the color like here, and we are apt to use as h1 blue, then we can see blue here. Okay, but notice here, if I use h1 tag color blue, this is the h1 tag, and you can see this home tag also h1, right?
Yes. Yes.
If I use any CSS color code, if I use any CSS color code directly with the selector, if we use the selector name h1, that color not overwritten any other object, uh,
Okay.
because it is also a CSS it is also a element, it is also a element, but these two elements are different, and this actually mentioned by when we are created a component. And if I create any component, so after this component have some different some uh, encapsulation process. Basically it is a encapsulation part which is the separates from the other elements.
Okay.
Okay, so it is actually separates from the other elements. So these elements have some id, and that id have their own css, which is visible here.
Understood.
Okay, and this part are differentiated by this particular generated element directive. This is the generate directive. These directives are actually creates the h1 tag by the
Okay.
color. Okay, so this is the way of using our CSS part. So as a class, as it class, we can use under this class constructor method, and if we want to use constructor method, then we can initiate a sum uh, when the object initialized. That time we can use any initial value when our component are initiated,
Okay.
because
So what is the difference between, like, we already said, like, uh, this dot count is
it
equal
is actually declarations. It here we are declared the variable, but what is the default value of that variable?
to there we can directly give, right?
Hi. Before we are given the direct value, but if we are not given any direct value, then we can use it like this.
Okay.
Then we can see directly 10 here, and we can decrement, we can increment, whatever we want, right?
Okay.
But here you notice when I click increment function or decrement function, that time we cannot see any functions which we are using here. See, I used this particular functions, but this particular functions not uh, seen here for increment or decrement.
Okay. Okay.
Basically, that is the angular function, and when it is used as angular function, that function are hidden in the JavaScript part. Basically, this JavaScript part have all the uh, functions behind the scene, which is are interacting here.
Okay.
Basically, if we are written any functions like this to the HTML file, then we can see that functions into the element, right?
Yes. Yes.
But at this moment we cannot see that particular functions, because that
Okay.
functions behind in the JS file, and it is only a reference which can be performed for increment purpose or decrement purpose for their uh, positions.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the some implementations by the Angular.
Okay.
And once we create this counter component once here, we can use same component differently. We can use this same components multiple times in same pages. So if I use these same components multiple times in our same pages, that means it will be same or it will be different.
Each will be different. Each will be separate instance.
It's actually separated instance, and if it is separated instance, then we can change the value multiple way. Yes, because we created the counter as class, and it is a, so for this purpose it's called object oriented design, because it is separate, a separate instance, and a separate instance with same UI, and it's actually worked as a object oriented design, not object oriented programming, right?
Okay.
We are actually created object oriented programming, but here we are using it as object oriented design.
What is the difference, programming and design?
Programming and design means basically it is programming are gives us features. Class programming gives us features. If you written any class and there have some functionalities, that functionalities give us some features to interact
Okay.
the uh, data or databases mostly. Object programming do that most of the time, but here same concept are replicate with the design.
For UI design, you are
Hmm.
meaning.
Basically, it is actually replicate with the UI design. Basically, here we are using HTML part, CSS part. So this is the actually replicates
Okay.
with the design.
But
So basically,
mm,
for this purpose, it's called object-oriented design. It is actually object-oriented programming, but actually when we are using it multiple times uh, in the page, so that time it's actually referred as a object-oriented design.
okay. So for example, line number 3 is an object here.
Yes. Line number 3 is a
If,
object. Line number 4 also is a object. Line number 5 is also a object
but
with the same reference.
yes, but in object-oriented programming,
Hmm.
we can instantiate an object and then we can refer that object in multiple places, correct? In
Multiple,
this case, we
multiple,
cannot do that.
multiple places or same places maybe, but
Yeah,
we need to declare uh, different objects when you are created it,
different objects. Yeah. So in
because
this case, can we assign an object to the items so that it can be referred in multiple places?
it's refer as multiple places means.
Uh, See, for example, if we in object-oriented programming, if we define an object
Hmm.
as A1 and assign it to a class,
Hmm.
and if that class contains an increment number,
Hmm.
A1 dot number is equal to 10 or something,
Hmm.
and if that number is changed,
Okay,
and if I
basically,
go and
basically,
refer,
basically, you want to get some inputs for the object, right?
not inputs, I want to know,
Hmm.
yeah, we can say that. For example, that number gets incremented or decremented in the first one, second one, and third one,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
If I want to get what is that number,
Hmm.
how can I get that?
Acha. That means which objects give what kind of number?
Yes, yes,
Okay. Actually, you want to check out the data from this particular instance through another class, basically.
yes, yes, yes,
Basically, if it is value is changed, so how can monitor that value from other class?
yes,
You actually ask about that.
yes,
Yes. If we want to do that, so that time we need to be use another options. First, we need to be input property first, because if I set as default value as 10, but always 10 is not good for every instance. Maybe
yeah.
it is 10, maybe it is 20, maybe it is 30,
Mm, mm.
maybe that is required. So that is actually input arguments, right? First,
Yes,
first we required input arguments, then we can get output arguments.
yes,
Because if we want to put some data into the Angular sets, then we use first input part as arguments, and next part we record the data to see another class or another sections, then we can use output. Okay, so basically first things is to understand it is a part of our UI, and same UI we I used here three times, right?
yes,
But when I use three times, it use same value not preferable. Okay, same value is
mm,
not preferable, but we can use it without ending tag, because if you want to use without ending tag, so that time we can use it with this process. Okay, it's called self closing tag.
Okay.
It's called self closing tag and it is a part of HTML. So self closing tag are acceptable when we are get output. Our output will be same, but self closing tag is a proper solutions when we are not using any data inside that element. Okay, basically this time we are not using any values input that element. So for that purpose we can use it as a self closing tag. Okay, hello.
Yes, understood.
Okay, we are using it now self closing tag because the extra tags does not require at this moment.
Yes.
So first thing we need to be import option. We need to be input some value. We need to input some value. If we want to need input some value for the counter property, right? We need some input value for the counter property. So this time we are actually not, I am not using it as like this. I just simply use it like this first. Okay, and when I use it then we can see everywhere is 0.
Okay.
Okay, so now we need to be use it as a input property. We need to use as a input property. If we want to use this particular variable as input property, so in the Angular library have another decorator function which called input decorator. Okay, so this is the input function, and this input function when we are using at the sign, so that means it is a input decorator function. And once we are created as a input decorator function, that means this particular count property can use as a, this time it is already 0, but this count property use as a attribute here. Now here we can use like this. But once I save it, then we can get some issues. We are getting some issues. Why? Because here my data type is number.
Okay.
Here my data type is number. So if it is data type is number, and when I put the value like this way, so its data type is a string.
Okay. Okay.
Because this data type does not match properly. You check this. Type string is not assignable type number. Okay, so basically here required actually numbered types, but when I put this data like this, so this time it is not converted as a number. It is actually treated as a string.
Okay.
So if it is treated as a string, so how it can possible to create it as a number? So we need to set it as like this into the Angular syntax, because here I already set it as a number. We set it as a number, but if we want to create it as a number, then this square bracket is required to bound our property. Property means attribute.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so this property need to be used like this, and it's called property binding.
Okay.
It's called property binding, and once I create it, then here we can use number directly. We can use variable in this section. Okay, So now once I use it, so then we can see the input properties here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can get different input properties from this section.
Yes.
It is understandable.
Yes.
Okay, once it is used, and if I want to bind with our own input property, basically own input property means home class input properties. So here we can use counter is another property variable where we can put some value 30 only. Okay, and this counter property can be assigned except this. And now we can see also here output as 30.
Okay.
So basically we can, if we use it like this, then we can see the value like counter. That means this counter property are declared inside the class, inside the parent class,
Okay.
and that parent class directly connected with the property binding side. Okay,
Okay.
but this is the process where we are using the property binding like this way. But if I want to change this value, actually I don't want to use count exactly. I want to use it as a val or value. Just I write it as a val. So it's called aliases. Basically, it's actually argument where we can make it as alias. Means this is the actually change the property type with the val.
Okay.
Okay, so if we change it as val, then our output everything is good. Just our input property name are changed. Okay, basically we are renaming the input property.
Okay.
Actual property name is count, but we are replace the input property name by this. Okay,
Okay.
but now you want to observe the value. You this time you want to observe the value from the other components, right? If you want this updated value, basically this is our updated value, want to observe from the outside of the class, so how can do that? You actually asking for that before.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So if we want to get if you want to observe that value from the output section, from the outputs, so basically here we need to use output decorator function. Here we need output decorator function first, and this is the output decorator. And once we are create the output decorator functions here directly, and after that we need to be add with some event name. Basically without event name it's not possible to get out the data. Okay, so that means this is the counter 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 value, and when we use it as counter value, so after that we need to perform some events to send that value. So this is the event emitter class, which is the actually part of Angular code, and that event emitter class pass that value when event is performed. Basically means is this event are performed basically when increment function is performed, then emit that value inside this object. Okay, and also same thing
Okay.
doing here.
Yeah.
Both of places, if we are created the value like this, and after that we can observe that value through the this counter value with this way. So un tr counter va lua. Okay, but if I want to observe the counter value through this section, so how can I observe this value? How can I observe this value?
Print it somewhere.
Print it somewhere, but how can do that? If we want to get some value from this counter value, so basically this counter value is a function component. Like if we are using the uh, function component like this. Okay, so this is the function this is the event name. This is the actually event name. Okay, this is the actually event name. Or through this syntax we actually create a same type of custom event. Okay,
Okay.
same type of custom events we are created here. So actually these custom events are calling with this syntax, with this type of property binding. And once we created it, after that we can observe this value console.log, which is the actually part of javascript syntaxes, and dollar event is a global value uh, pass. We can use it as a global value parser. So once I create it like this, then we can see the data. But okay, console.log actually not observing it properly. Okay, so if we want to pass, if we want to check the value directly from here, so basically we need to calling here some function. So check value, and here we can use the value function like this. Okay, we can pass the value and we can check that value in the console. So first we can use this function name, and after that we can use this function name with the event. What happening? Okay, so basically here I have some problem, because here we actually get it as a event. So actually we get the value as event, and this event data actually comes from here. Okay, so actually data types does not match before. So for that I was get some problem. Hello.
Yeah, got it.
So once we see the changes, so how can monitor the changes data? So once I written here, and here we can use the value, just refresh it. Just I written it as any, it will be better. And then restart our environment, and then we can check it. So just what a pity. Syntax is correct.
The spelling, is it correct?
Hmm?
Counter
No,
value assignment.
actually, I think that spelling was missing. So for that, it's not working before. Actually,
Hmm.
n missing. N is missing here. COUN, COUN, TR counter. So basically, COUN counter is was missing, and for that, it's not showing properly before. Okay, now it's showing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's give us get output, but actually it's uh, it is a counter value, but we can say, give a good name like val change. It is a good name because we are put the value, and when value change, it is good to see val CHANG. Okay, it is good name to see the get output. So it is our custom function which are used before in the element, because here we perform some event emitter, and that event emitter sent a event data through this way, and when we get that value, then we can get the value through this way in our component. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the way which can we use in our uh, component structure. So this part are actually comes from this input data and output data. So this is the input data accepting options. So before we can check out the component section, here it is component section and how components works. So this is the component anatomy, which how components is working, and after that how selectors are working. So here is a process. So profile photo, and that profile photo can be used like this, and we can use this various manner with the selector. Various type of selectors are here. This is the various type of selectors. If you are not understand yet, then I can tell you. And also we can put some styles like this way. Okay, we can use styles, CSS styling with this way.
Okay.
Various type of styling process also here in this documentations section, and also here I can set. Okay, here have some things are detail. Here some detailing here, like when we are using some component like this. This is a component. Okay, and in this component actually I want to change my color only for this section from the parent section, from the parent uh, section. How can do that?
Sorry, what is the question, sir?
Question is, it is these colors comes from the sub component.
Yes.
Basically this color already set up in the sub component, but this type of sub components may be created by other developers who are created the Angular components. But if you reuse for your UI and you want to change this color for your UI respectively, so how can change it?
Okay.
Do you replace the your developer's code, or you change it your own class?
On our own.
Because it is a actually standard. If you want to change this color, then you need to use change this color in your own class, and it will be replicate here, right?
Yeah.
Basically if you change it your sub class or component developers file, that is not good idea to change the process, right? Because
Yes.
because their UI may be disrupted. So if I want to change it this color code, so that time we have some selector styling selector options, and here we can use view encapsulation none if we are using this particular part in our current component, in this home component. So just I use it like this, and I just import it. If I use it, so here we can see our color code is changed. Actually not changed yet, but now I use my own color code like color green. Okay, so if I use it green, then is it change anywhere?
No.
No. Why not? Because at least if it is used here, so here already home works are here, so at least we need to see the h1 tag are in the home component, and now, oh sorry, I changed it in the header section, sorry. In the home section, in the home section, home.css, here I need to change it color as green. Okay, so first I set it as a color green. So home works color is green now, right?
Yeah.
Because we can change our color in our section, it is acceptable. But I
Yes.
want to change this line number 20 color also need to change. So how can do that? Here if we want to change the color, so sometimes we can encapsulation view encapsulation none. If I use, then we need to be use some reference. Basically we need to use some reference for this element. So how can use the reference name? Here we can use reference name as id equal to counter 2. Use it as a id counter 2. So if I use it counter 2, then here we can use hash counter counter 2, and then I want to use color red for this section. So let's check out the syntax. So counter
But
2 I'm using.
what component we need to say, right?
Hmm? Yes, actually what component I want to see in this color. So actually h1 I want to see that color. h2 is a component, and under h2 we want to change the color of h1.
Okay.
Okay, so from my css class we can change this process, but if I not applying this section, then this color not be applicable.
Okay.
If I not using this view encapsulation none, then this css not be applied into the child component.
Okay.
But if I applying this syntax in our component, in our parent component, then it will be applicable for our child component.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the process to change our styling from the parent to child. And also we have another options if we are not using yet, so then we can use another options ngdiff without using this part. Here we can use ngdiff, and then we can use it, then we can see the changes through the css. Could you understand it?
Yes, I could understand it.
Okay, so this is the basic understanding about the selector, how it work. And if I using as selector, it is the element selector, and after that it is the pseudo class, and pseudo class we can use like this way also. This is the actually type describing of selector. Multiple selector we can use like this, and so many selector using like this way. Okay, so this is the actually selector points we can use.
Okay.
various way. If we create to styling, so this is some styling process which are hearing, and basically when we are when we want to change the color of sub component, that is actually part of scoping. Scoping actually gives some room to separate their identity. But if you want to violate that scope, so that time you need to be use this encapsulation none, and then you can overwrite the coloring or styling for your sub component. Okay,
Okay.
and same things you can do it with the css file. If you are not using this particular syntax, then you can use it with the css file if you are not using this line in your component class.
Okay.
Okay, and after that we have used input property, but this input property value is different, which I show you. Actually it's comes with the signal property, but actually my process does not referred here yet, I think. Yes, here. This is the input declarations we are using. Okay, this input declarations I am using, and these input declarations are actually applied for our counter component at this moment. But this in this particular part I use right now. But if we are get output data, so input output with this kind of syntax I am not using yet right now. So just scroll a little bit down, and then we can see the output decorator function, and that output decorations are applying right now. But this part, actually this type of parts I'm not actually working on here, because this particular parts comes from the signals. So I did not discuss about the signals first. So for that particular purpose you cannot understood it right now. So if you understood the input and output part, and actually this syntaxes actually supports before, but this syntaxes are actually new additions into the Angular framework.
Okay.
Okay, so basically new syntax are referred first, but it is the legacy versions, and which is support also in our Angular framework. So I just taught you this way, which is are already worked before, and it's also currently here. But signals part, when I discuss in next class, then we can discuss about it, what type of input output decorator can be used for our component.
Sure.
Okay, and once you understand it, input output property, then these things are already hold. Today I not discuss yet at these things. Basically these four things are most important. If you can understand, then you can design your component easily, and you can also migrate your design with your syntax.
Okay.
So could you understand everything?
Yes. Yes.
It is excited
Yes.
topic.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. Okay, so our next class will be Thursday.
Thursday.